We are back on the record.
Ma'am, we're back on the record. There was a hearing in October 7th of 2020 in this case. Were you present for that hearing?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that the judge ordered that Mr. Baptista could get visitation from October 30th until November 29th, and that the child could fly unattended? Isn't that true?
Yes.
I'd like you to look at bait stamp. This is an AA bait stamp 394. And looking at base stamp 394, down on 3/12/2020 at 7:57:30 a.m. Can you just read what you wrote at that time?
Well, it's actually Las Vegas. I really can't give you a definitive or definite answer right now. I have to consider my current employment and financial obligations before I would be able to consider a move.
Okay. The reason I asked this when you said, well, Emma and I would like to leave Las Vegas. Now, that's a true statement, correct? You would like to leave Las Vegas with Emma, isn't that true?
No. I need both.
Yeah, but the answer that you gave to Emma's father was you'd like to leave Las Vegas with Emma, isn't that right? That's what you told him. Okay. And in fact, this wasn't the first time that there had been discussion either by talking parents or otherwise about moving back to Missouri, right?
There was one other time.
Okay. And in that, what you're saying is just one other time. You made it clear that you'd like to go back to Missouri, right?
No.
Did you approach him about going back to Missouri in a previous conversation on talking parents or otherwise?
Did I approach him? Is that what you said? No.
Did he approach you?
I don't know what to do now.
Okay. What was the context then of previous discussions about going back to Missouri?
I don't think it was really specific. He was thinking of taking some job on a cruise ship or something of that matter, and I discussed moving elsewhere than Vegas.
You mean that while he was on the cruise ship, you would move to some other location?
Yeah.
Okay, and where were you talking about moving then?
And I didn't have the specific locations for.
Okay. Just anywhere? I mean, you sit here today, your best answer under oath is you were just going to move to some place not in Nevada, but who knows where?
I would have to expand my options, and it never happened, so I never did.
And would it be fair to say that for some period of time in March and April of 2020 last year, after the pandemic hit here in Nevada, you were in Missouri with Emma, correct?
Yes.
And you were staying with your parents, is that right?
Yes.
And there's no question that the dental practice that you're working at that time was closed down?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason it was closed down was because of the COVID restrictions, is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Baptista was aware of those, of that condition, correct? You made him aware of that?
No.
Okay. Well, did you make him aware that you were out to visit for 3 weeks out in Missouri?
I don't remember the specific time last time I was in Missouri.
Okay. And he was in Missouri at the time too, right?
Yes.
And you were exchanging the child in Missouri even though you were both there on a weekly basis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't know how long you were going to be in Missouri at the time that you arrived there, correct?
I was only there for a couple of weeks because that was the extent of how long my office was intended to be closed.
Okay, so you actually ended up staying longer than what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, there's a difference between 2 weeks and 3 weeks, right? And you were there for 3 weeks, right?
I was there for 2. Or 2 and a couple days, but...
I just want to make sure I understand your testimony under oath correctly. You never communicated to Mr. Baptista what your employment situation was, correct?
I don't remember exactly what I had said.
Well, you knew that he was reaching out to you to live in Missouri, that Emma would live in Missouri and so would you, right? Is that correct?
There was no definite answer that he would express his interest.
Okay. And then what you're telling me today under oath is that you didn't give him any information about how long you were going to be out of work or that you were even out of work, but you appear in Missouri and you're there for weeks. Isn't that correct? Isn't that true?
No.
Well, I guess it's really hard to understand what your testimony is. You showed up in Missouri. Did you tell him you were going out to Missouri? And the talking parents, yes or no?
I don't remember exactly when I noticed that when I told him. I cannot tell you an exact answer, sir.
Okay. So, let me just ask it, because what Mr. Baptista is saying is that you weren't sure you were ever going back to Nevada. You came out to Missouri, and you were exchanging the child week on, week off. Isn't that true?
Yes, they exchanged the child in years of previous birth.
I'd like you to look at Exhibit T. Is it Thomas?
Can you repeat the number?
Sure, Exhibit T, and it would be date stamp 429.
420, thank you.
Did you ever accuse your spouse, did you ever accuse Mr. Baptista that your father or your child committing sexual molestation against Emma?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
You done that?
What username, sorry, did you say 429?
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question first, because it seems like it's something you remember. Isn't it true that you alleged that Mr. Baptista molested Emma? Isn't that true?
No.
Okay, why don't you look at date stamp? Isn't it true that you called CPS and claimed that you've been sexually molested?
No, I never him.
Objection. Court's already ruled on this issue, on the relevance of this issue prior to 2017.
It's unclear to the court what the time frame is, so with counsel just saying a yes or no question, that's a fair question, and it's relevant, which is why I overruled the prior objection. But once we get to the timing, McMonigal and all that good stuff applies. So please proceed.
Did you ever make a complaint? Let me ask it a different way. Did you ever represent to a court or to anyone in authority that you believed that Mr. Baptista had sexually molested Emma?
No.
You would agree here, as we sit here today, that Mr. Baptista never sexually molested Emma. Isn't that true?
Correct.
In terms of Mr. Baptista, is he a good father?
I would assume so. I have no idea at the same time.
What would you say would be his best trait as a father? verify whether Mr. Baptista is a good father or not. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes, you can't say, is that correct?
Yeah, I can't say it. I'm not aware with them.
And isn't it true that because of that ambivalence, or because you really can't acknowledge that he is a good father, that's why you block his visits every chance that you get? Like these last 2 birthdays, isn't that true?
No.
Isn't that true that that's why you make it so difficult for him to get information about education, medical, and every other piece of information? Isn't that correct? It's because you really think he's a good dad, isn't that right?
Compound.
Has Mr. Baptista, let me strike it. Would you agree with me that Mr. Baptista can provide more and a better home, making $100,000 a year than he could making $18 an hour?
I can't speak for what he can follow with his money.
Okay. I'm here a college degree, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you agree with me that as you made more money as a parent and became more financially successful, you were able to provide more for your daughter than otherwise? Yes or no?
Provide what? The housing stuff or care?
Oh,
Yes, one or the other.
so I want to make sure I understand it correctly. Let me back up and ask it a different way. What is it that you are so fond of Las Vegas about? What is it here that you find to be such a draw?
I established a life here. I have a career. I have friends. I have things that I do. I enjoy it.
Do you go out with your friends?
When I get home, I go, sure. But that's not very often.
Right, so you don't go out very often, is that correct?
No.
Anything further, Your Honor?
Mr. Ackerman, the court has a couple questions. Shall the court ask them before or after your cross-examination?
Please proceed, Your Honor.
Okay. Mom, I have a couple questions for you. This story about Dad's birthday and not allowing Dad to see Emma on Dad's birthday. There's talking parents messages that show about 3 p.m. or something. The visit was done, and then by 4:15, there was nothing going on. In your own words, because when you get asked yes or no questions, it's confusing. So
Yes.
I'd like you to provide your input as to what happened regarding Dad's denial of his birthday time with Emma with regards to the doctor's office. What was going on?
Sure. So he originally asked me to pick her up, and I had said no because I already made arrangements to get off work and get her. I was in a message that we were going to be there at 4 p.m. and the appointment was at 4:15. Because as a dental hygienist, I'm at least 15 minutes early and that's before my patients. So we got there at 4. The doctor called her back at 4:05. I sent her a message and told her she was going back. And he walked in, looked at her arm, said it's cleared up. If she throws up, we're going to check it. And I walked out and I set up her 6-month appointment and I texted Dad and told him. He didn't respond to me immediately. He sent me a text message on his phone saying that he had fallen asleep at 4:45 and wanted to know if we were still there.
What day is Dad's birthday? September what?
19th?
19th?
Yes.
Do council have the Bates number for that talking parents exchange?
It is AB 0000425.
Thank you. So, Emma got off of school at what time? You said there was a discussion with Dad about pickup. So what time was little one off of school?
We went out of school at 2:30, the appointments at 1:10
Okay. So you pick her up at 2:30, 2:45, there's a doctor's appointment at 4:15, and you show up 15 minutes early, even though there was
Yes, ma'am.
even though there was a 2-hour window, approximately?
It took me about an hour to get off Crosstown. She was on Maple and Woodlawn, and her doctor's office is on the northwest side.
Okay.
What page?
So on this page 425, could you turn to it?
Yes.
Sure.
It's an AA.
Yes, it's an AA. It's Bates number 425.
Yes.
Okay, so is it fair to say that Andrew at 8:55 a.m. asked about the 4 p.m. appointment and it being 6 hours away and wanting to spend time on his birthday? And then you respond at 3:07 p.m. After Dad confirms in writing that the appointment's at 4 p.m., you respond at 3:07 p.m. that her appointment is over. It took 5 minutes. She healed. And they will see her again in 6 months. Is that fair to say? Was stated?
Yeah, but I think this is different than mine based on which time zone you're in.
You should be at AA at Bates 425.
Yeah, it's right there.
Your Honor, if I may, the next
Your
statement.
Honor, respect, Your Honor, you're speaking questions, all kinds of explanations.
There's an issue with the exhibit, and I think I can clarify what the problem with the exhibit is. I don't believe that it's inappropriate if the exhibit itself is incorrect.
Well, respect, Your Honor, the exhibit's been admitted by, both of us have admitted this exhibit by agreement, and the exhibit speaks for itself.
I have a question for both counsel. Would you gentlemen agree that the timestamp is the same on both the plaintiff exhibit version and the defense exhibit version, or would you assume that
Yes, Your Honor, it's the same.
timestamps are different? Okay, so you both have the same timestamps. So, Mr. Ackerman, please tell the court if there's a problem with the timestamp. I am curious.
Yes, Your Honor. So, in the next statement over from Mr. Baptista, 9/19/2019 at 3:49:38 p.m., he states, "You notified me at 4:07 p.m." So that shows that he's writing this at some point after 4:07 p.m., and yet this timestamp says it's 3:49 p.m. So there is an issue with the timestamp being incorrect on this, or at least both parties' clocks were similarly incorrect.
Is there a notification on the custodian of records affidavit or anything on the first couple pages or the last couple pages that address any timing issues due to time zone changes?
135 to 1.
I'll have to check.
It says all times presented in Alaskan Standard Time on the bottom. Do you see that, counsels?
And I had not noticed that. And I hadn't noticed the issue with the timestamp until now.
Okay. Fair enough. So, Mom, what are your thoughts on what was just discussed regarding the timestamps? Does that kind of refresh your recollection as to anything that you would like to tell the court?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize the page.
Now that there's been extensive discussion about the timestamps, does that refresh your recollection about anything you'd like to tell the court? Now's your time.
No, you exactly how it is.
Okay. The court had other questions about the school choice and the school issue. And because of the formats of the questions and how you answered, I was not clear. So your daughter attended the Wright School, is that correct? William Wright. Okay. From when to when?
First,
And when did she change?
she went into Vegas in second grade.
Okay, so commencing second grade, so we're talking August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happened in the summer of 2020? What grade was she in?
2020.
Mm-hmm.
What grade did she get into?
In the summer of 2020, what grade was your daughter about to go into?
Third.
Third. Okay.
Mhm.
And this legacy school, you said, started in second grade. So by the time summer of 2020 rolled around, she had already completed a complete school year at Legacy. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So according to these talking parents messages, you're kind of saying that there was a survey and Dad's kind of saying there was a school choice issue. Can you tell me in your own words what went on?
There had been board meetings, and the school decided to send out a survey so they could get proper numbers. Here in hybrid.
Is that because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a survey to parents.
Yes.
Was it like
Um,
one survey? Was it, hang on. Was it one survey per student or one survey per parent, or how was it?
I can't speak to, from my understanding, it was to each parent in the campus.
Okay, so you responded to a survey, and then all of a sudden she's in a 50-50 hybrid time agreement?
Yes.
Okay, and what was she in before that?
Full time.
Full-time school?
Which has been online through the pandemic, like the March or she's online.
She was online. Okay. 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 In your talking parents, can I ask one more and then you ask?
I apologize.
Okay, one more and then it's you. Okay. Mom, I have a question about babysitters. I saw the talking parents emails and I read them all about you providing the names of the babysitting services and then even the names, including first and last, of the babysitters. As soon as Dad asked you for their phone numbers, you said no. Why is that?
I might feel it was my place to give a personal cell phone. I felt that if you needed information, you should contact the babysitting service and request it.
Do you know if he did?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if he's ever spoken to the babysitters?
No, I don't.
Okay. Mr. Kelleher? One last question. Mr. Ackerman.
Isn't it true that you just chose not to give Mr. Baptista any visitation time on his birthday because the decree just said didn't require you to do it? Isn't that correct? Isn't that the reason?
No.
All right, I'd like to look at, this is on Exhibit AA, base stamp.
Your Honor, he's passed the witness. It's 4 p.m. and I haven't gotten a single question out to my client.
Respectfully, Ryan, I'm allowed to do this anyway because I can always recross. So it's base stamp 426, it's Exhibit AA.
The court's decision is going to be one more question, and then it'll be Mr. Ackerman. Go ahead.
Fair enough, Your Honor. I'd like you to go to base stamp 426, it's an AA, and let's go right up to the top at 9/16/2019 at 5:06:37 a.m. You see that?
What Bates number?
Yes.
Okay. And this is what you wrote to your to Mr. Baptista. I know this is your birthday and you want to spend time with Emma. However, the court order does not specify that we as parents get Emma on our birthdays. I'm not sure if you remember, but Emma's follow-up dermatology appointment is Thursday, 9/19 at 4:15 p.m. I'm willing to let you take Emma if I'm allowed to have the makeup time on Saturday, 9/21/19 afternoon from 2 to 7 p.m. so my mom can see Emma while she is here. See that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you chose not to give him that time, isn't that correct? Because he was upset about what you were demanding, isn't that correct?
That he was upset or I was upset? It cut out.
The truth is, you were telling him you're not going to give him time on his birthday unless he gave you something, isn't that correct?
No, I was just trying to make a compromise.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor, since you limited that to the one question.
Mr. Ackerman?
Your Honor, since we're on this page, on birthdays, the court order doesn't provide you to have Emma on your birthday either, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so in this situation, Mr. Baptista asked for time outside of what is ordered to you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you told him it would be fine if you could have a little bit of makeup time that weekend. Is that right?
Correct.
And what was his response to that?
No.
That first sentence right in the next paragraph there.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Mr. Kelleher discussed the request for visit from the fall. Do you recall receiving a request for Mr. Baptista to spend some time with Emma by letter in the fall of 2020?
Vaguely.
And do you remember was he asking for a month at a time in that letter, or was it specific to certain days?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is a meeting and you can't lead your own witness, even if it's cross-examination.
He mixed up the
Sustained. Ask it a different way, counsel.
Did that request ask, that letter that we initially received, did it ask for an extended period of time?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. She already testified she can't really remember.
Overruled.
I wasn't able to ask my question.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer.
One letter was signed was the weekend, one letter was signed was the month.
Okay. That first letter for the weekend, what was your response to that?
Was the letter she was going to find by herself and actually to work out a plan for her to follow something?
And so if Mr. Baptista had agreed that she would fly accompanied, you would have allowed those visits to take place.
Yes.
Do you recall the time of the month-long visit that he was requesting? What month he was requesting that visit for?
It was the last weekend of October, the end of November.
And what was your understanding of what would be going on in school at the time, as far as you were understanding of it? What was going to be happening for Emma's school during that period of time?
It's been consistent since the beginning that they were going back hybrid, so they were starting nursing.
Do you recall why you were concerned about Emma going to Missouri for an entire month in that time period?
Because she missed school in person.
So I want to also clarify briefly the appointments for the doctor with Emma's leg. How many appointments did you go to check up on Emma's leg?
No, 3 appointments altogether.
Okay. On that first appointment, what did you tell Mr. Baptista had taken place?
That they stated there was a fracture in the ankle.
Okay. And there was a second appointment, or what happened at that second appointment?
The orthopedist took an X-ray and he couldn't see a visible fracture, but he was still concerned because we were planning on putting him in walking group for 4 weeks.
Okay. And you informed Mr. Baptista of that, correct?
Yes.
And then there was a third appointment. What happened at that third appointment?
Doctor walked in, asked her to walk across the room, said she was okay, and walked back out.
Is that the appointment that we were looking at on page 425 with the issue of the timestamp?
I think that was the first appointment I ever walked in.
Okay. And just to clarify that, can you turn to 425 briefly? That's Exhibit AA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The second statement down from you, 919 at 8:53:41 a.m. as far as this timestamp goes. Can you tell us what you informed her about what time the appointment's going to be and when you're going to be there?
Her appointment is at 4:15 and she needs to be there at 4 p.m.
Were you in fact there at 4 p.m.?
I would say yes.
Was Mr. Baptista there at 4 p.m.?
No.
Okay. When you decided on the school here, whether it would be hybrid or not, what things did you take into consideration as far as what your preference was going to be?
My work schedule, as well as Emma's moving to the classroom, because that was one thing we were working on, is that she was having social interaction problems with her teachers' concerns were.
And in that, do you recall our office sending a request? Oh, strike that. As far as school information goes, are you enrolled in any online program to get information for Emma?
Infinite.
And what is Infinite Campus exactly? What information is provided on that?
It has attendance videos, and a message sent to me from the school, so any correspondence that goes out goes through a message to me.
And either parent can sign up for that, is that right?
Yes.
And you signed up for it, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Baptista, has he signed up for it? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Any information that you receive, grades, progress reports, things like that, you get notified through that portal, correct?
Yes.
If Mr. Baptista were to sign up for the same thing, do you believe he would get that same information?
Yes.
Okay. From April 2018 to the present, did Mr. Baptista inform you every time he moved from one residence to another?
Yes.
Did he provide you with the names of everyone that was living at each one of those residences?
No.
What were your concerns with not knowing who was there?
Just as a parent having working in the household, there's multiple people in there who would do that kind of background.
Did you ever ask Mr. Baptista for that information?
I asked for analysis.
And what would be his response to that?
I would give them some message and ask them.
Have you ever, has the court ever found, in this case, that you have harassed any of his roommates?
No.
Have you ever harassed any of his roommates?
No.
Mr. Baptista is supposed to have decision-making authority for healthcare decisions. How many times in the past 2 years has Mr. Baptista actually taken Emma to a doctor's appointment?
December.
And that's the one time that is mentioned in his responses to our interrogatories, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us, did any problems arise during that that day?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. We went for hours before the appointment. I was notified that there was an appointment, and it was scheduled in my custodial time. I told him that it needed to be rescheduled because I was not notified in time to make proper arrangements or take off work to attend the appointment. So he ended up keeping on home that day, and I didn't know where she was because she didn't show up to school until afternoon, when I finally got an answer and said she was sick and that he was taking her to the doctor. I then rearranged my patient so I could both work to be there, and as I was leaving the office, he then informed me that he had moved the appointment up and that he was already taking her in. It was about a 30-minute drive, and by the time I got to the office, him, Emily, and Emma were outside getting into his car getting ready to leave. And I had to walk the car in to get Emma.
Can we get a time frame on this and a little bit of foundation as to time frame, counsel?
Certainly. Do you recall when that appointment was supposed would have taken place?
May 7th, I believe.
2019, 2020?
Yeah. 2020.
Okay. So that was about a year ago at this point.
Yes.
You testified previously you were not a dental hygienist in Missouri, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You're a dental hygienist here in Nevada, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you need a license to be a dental hygienist or certification from the state?
Yes.
Would you be able, with the certification you have now, would you be able to go to any other state to work?
No.
What would you have to do in order to do that, to go to another state?
Apply for licensure and get background checks.
Okay. How long have you been working in Nevada as a dental hygienist?
Since October 2016.
So 4 years in the field here in Nevada, is that right? Approximately?
Yes.
What was your starting salary when you first got started?
$40 an hour.
And so you've gotten raises since then?
Yes.
You testified that you don't have biological family here in town. Do you have any friends or colleagues here in town that you're close with?
Yes.
Okay. And how often, pre-pandemic, how often would you see these friends and colleagues on a social level?
Like once a month.
Okay. There was a whole list of family members in Missouri. How often do you actually see every single one of those people?
I live in my parents, not very often.
When you say not very often, what is that, once a month?
No, on the one side, it depends on how the holidays fall. I might see them at Thanksgiving or Easter. On my dad's side, once a year.
Now, when the court granted you your pickup order, did you ask Mr. Baptista to bring the child to Nevada?
No.
You drove up to Missouri to pick up your daughter?
Yes.
Okay. Indulgence. Do you know whether, have you seen Emma with any friends from school? Here in Nevada?
Here? Not
Okay, why not this year?
Because we're following the governor's orders for the COVID restrictions.
Okay, so do you think it's a good idea to have sleepovers with people these days?
No.
Do you think it's a good idea to have barbecues with 12, 30 people at a time?
No.
How does it make you feel that Mr. Baptista does think that that's a good idea?
A little uneasy.
What kind of things do you and Emma like to do here in Las Vegas? Just for fun.
We like to go to parks. We go to lots of them. We like to go to painting classes at a studio. We like to go hiking when it's warm outside. And go to Charleston in the snow.
When you do these activities with Emma, does it appear like she's enjoying herself?
Yes.
Right. Now, as it regards Emma's school, are you, how involved are you with Emma's school?
At the moment, I was involved in the campaign with the liaison for the parent volunteer organization.
And what does that entail?
It's just the communication between the teachers and the parents, making sure if they volunteers spend anything that we have somebody available, whether it's to make news, do book, or poster boards.
Have you ever dissuaded Mr. Baptista from being more involved in Emma's schooling?
No.
Let's talk briefly about how you chose Legacy School. Was there ever an order from the court allowing you to get yourself on a list for a charter school?
Not original hearing. It was stated that I was allowed to enter in the lottery, which didn't ensure her name, it didn't ensure a spot, but it just gave the opportunity she was selected.
And was she ultimately selected?
Yes.
Did you return to court to address the issue of that selection ever?
Yes.
And was there an agreement as far as what school Emma would go to as a result of that hearing?
Yes, there's a way that she had attended legacy traditions.
Okay. And that's what she's attending now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the school goes, what sort of things do you like about that school, more so than the public schools that she would have been attending?
I like the curriculum of the school. It is the same for every teacher throughout the entire grade. It is constructed by the administration versus curriculum that is constructed by a teacher. As well as like I said, she's in like advanced placement. They have the makeup program. The other option was momentum, and Emma didn't feel that sports was what she wanted to do. They also have grades for things such as citizenship. So whether they're a good upstanding citizen in class, if they're following the rules, being polite to others, they actually get graded on it.
Okay. And has Mr. Baptista ever sent you any information, you personally, any information about any school he would like Emma to attend in Missouri?
No.
Sitting here today, what do you know about the curriculum in the schools in Missouri?
Nothing.
What do you know about the teacher-student ratio from the schools in Missouri?
Nothing.
Do you know whether they have a music program for Emma in Missouri?
No.
You said you had looked, you had previously thought about maybe moving out of of Nevada, did you take a look at what kind of dental hygienist jobs exist in Missouri?
Yes.
From what you saw, were they offering salaries commensurate to what you're making here?
No, we have objections there as to hearsay and lack of foundation.
You're right.
It was this type of testimony ourselves, and the court said no, so, that's our objection.
I think we need to lay a little bit of foundation, but if you ask it a different way, we should be able to get there.
What did you look at? What did you do as far as looking at opportunities for dental hygienists in Missouri?
I looked at current job postings as well as former classmates that work in Missouri at this time as hygienists.
And those job postings, were those online, in person?
Online.
Okay. Did you find any online postings with salaries commensurate to your own?
The information is hearsay and lacks foundation, right?
If she has an understanding as to the salary in Missouri, she can testify to that. So could you rephrase your question and sustained?
Do you have any understanding as to, well, I'll move on, Your Honor. I've worked currently work at Welch Dentistry, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you know how long Welch Dentistry has been around?
This office has been open for 6 years.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
7 to 8 months.
All right. And how long did you say you had been a dental hygienist in general here in Nevada?
Over 4 years.
Do you know others in the dental hygienist field here in Nevada? So other dental hygienists, other dentists from other offices?
Yes.
Okay. Are those people you'd be able to reach out to for further employment opportunities in the future?
Yes.
Do you know folks like that in Missouri?
No.
Okay.
I'm just not a dental hygienist. I do not know any dentists.
Okay. Would the dental hygienists be the ones offering you jobs?
No.
Most likely. Okay.
No.
Okay. Indulgence, Your Honor. You received any financial assistance from Mr. Baptista since the April 5th, since your daughter returned to you in April 15?
No.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Briefly, you indicated that you have no idea to the academics out in Missouri. Isn't it true that your sister works in the school district out in Missouri? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And in addition to that, my office and my client supplied lots of documents, which may be hearsay, but there were lots of documents that were supplied to you as to the school rankings and how the school compares and how many students are in it and all the rest indexed. Isn't that true?
Yes, I provided documents from what I'm saying.
Okay. So, did you review those?
No, I did not.
Okay, the truth is, if the school was Harvard University there in Missouri, you still wouldn't be amenable to the move, correct? No matter how good the school is. Isn't that true?
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
But it's not speculation, Your Honor. Actually, it would be not even a hypothetical. The school's not important to you, is it?
The school is very important.
So my question is, if the school out there ranks objectively better than the school here, would that change your mind about this move to Missouri?
Objection, they've presented no evidence as to the quality of the school.
I'm not sure what the grounds for an objection on that regard, Mr. Ackerman.
I suppose it's speculative, Your Honor.
If she knows, go ahead and answer. Overruled.
What was the question?
Objective evidence shows that the school out in Nixa is better than the school here.
No,
You still wouldn't agree with the move to Nixa, Missouri. Isn't that true?
No.
Huh. Isn't it true that if you didn't attend hygienist school here, you have been licensed in Arkansas and worked there as a hygienist? Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And would you agree with me that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics keeps statistics as to what the hourly wage is for hygienists in all 50 states?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Mr. Ackerman?
Briefly, Ms. Ba, have you been provided with any, quote, objective evidence as to the school's quality in Missouri?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anyway.
Do we have another witness?
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Ackerman?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
No.
We'd rest.
Okay. Would counsel like to proceed with closing, or do you need a short break before we proceed with closing?
I'd like
I would mind
Your
to
Honor.
pursue it close. I'm sorry. Whatever Mr. Ackerman wants, I'm fine either way.
Okay.
I would like 10 minutes, Your Honor.
10 minutes? Okay, we will come back at 4:39 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.